Hello guys, it's Chef Michelle here, and I am here prepared to cook a wonderful African dish for you guys today. I have a lot of nice ingredients here that I want to show. I will be cooking something called cassava leaves, and it's in the African name it's called pondu. And it's pretty much like spinach or any other greens that you may like. Very delicious. You just fill your pot with a bunch of different vegetables that I will show you guys here. But that's what this is. This is pondu, and it's pretty much like a spinach, but it's cassava leaves. And then the vegetables that I add to that pondu are leeks. We have wonderful leeks here. And then we have a Chinese eggplant. It's a skinny sized plant. And then we have the regular eggplant that I'm for sure you guys are familiar with. I'm for sure you see this in your regular market. And then we will just put tons of green onions in that pondu. We also have something called palm oil that we will add to the pondu dish. It just gives it tons of flavor, and it's a tradition that the Africans put in their pondu. And then the next thing that we will be cooking alongside with the pondu is oxtails, and you could put this inside of your pondu. You know, oxtails, you could put fish, you can put beef, you could put chicken, you could put pretty much any meat that you want. But normally the Africans will put fish and peanut butter. But unfortunately in my family I have food allergies, so I cannot use peanut butter or fish in my pondu today. But I will be using the oxtails that I mentioned. So other vegetables that I will be using for my pondu are greens here, and onions and red onions, and tons of garlic and celery. And like I said, with pondu you could pretty much put any vegetable in pondu. It doesn't matter. It'll all cook down perfectly, and it'll be delicious. So that's what's on the menu today: pondu and oxtail. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get cooking with you guys. So just stick with me, and yep, let's get cooking. Hello guys, Chef Michelle here. So the first step to doing this pondu here, what we will do is we have about 4 or 5 cups of hot water, and we will just pour all of the pondu in the water. This is 1 package of pondu. Okay, this is the very first step. Pour all this pondu in the water. Okay, and then we're gonna cook this down for 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, I will come back with the next step. Hello guys, so I'm back with the second step. We left off with letting this pondu boil for 15 minutes, but I actually let it boil for longer than 15 minutes. I let it boil for a good 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Okay, so now the next step is to just add all of those vegetables, and we will begin with the eggplant and the leeks and the green onions. Okay, and all of this is going to cook down. You know, it seems like a lot, but once it cooks down, you know, it'll condense. But of course I love vegetables anyway. So I'm okay with, you know, a ton of vegetables. Okay. Alright, so we're just gonna mix all of that in. Make sure it's well incorporated. Alright. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to add is spinach to this dish. Like I said, this is just tons and tons of vegetables. This dish is very healthy for you. And then, you know, the purpose of adding the spinach, I find that when you add spinach to your pondu, it makes it softer. Because to be honest, pondu, it takes time to cook. It could take hours and hours and hours to cook, but I find that when you add the spinach, it softens it up. Okay, so now we will add the rest of those vegetables. We have the red onions, tons of garlic, celery, and more greens. I have mustard greens there, and onions.
No, garlic, you have to chop.
Okay, and then we'll add those mustard greens. Like I said, you guys will see the end result. This will cook down. This will definitely condense down. Okay, and what I'm going to do is just, you know, finely chop my onions, but you definitely add your onions. Okay. With African Americans, they have collard greens. That's like a tradition. And with this dish, with the cassava leaves or pondu, it's African tradition for like Congolese and Nigerians. Of course, they all cook it differently. But I learned this recipe from a friend of mine. She's Congolese, so she cooked it for me many years ago, and I tasted it. I'm like, wow, how do you cook that? But with her pondu, she added fish and peanut butter, you know. But as I mentioned to you guys before, I'm not adding peanut butter. I'm doing oxtails because I have 2 kids with food allergy. Anyway, I'm just mixing that really nicely. And now, lastly, I will add the palm oil to this dish. Okay. Alright guys, so what we're going to do is just put this back on the stove top and let it condense down for 1 hour. 1 hour is a good time. So after 1 hour, we'll come back and I'll let you see the end results. The next step, we're going to go ahead and do the oxtail, so I'll just come back with that next step. Hello guys, so now I'm back and we're going to go ahead and get these lovely, nice oxtails started. And we're going to first begin with getting them seasoned up. As you guys can see, these are some humongous oxtails. Look at that. These things are nice and chunky, especially this one here. Chunky oxtails. You know, this was the last pack of oxtails that I found in the store, and to be honest, I prefer for them to be smaller than what they are, but it was the last pack, so I, you know, just grabbed them up. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and begin with adding some oxtail seasoning. And where you can find oxtail seasoning, I find it in the international section of the grocery store, Jamaican section. That's where I find it. And yeah, so I'll just season these up, mix it in, and all of the seasoning. Okay, like to get all of that seasoning. These are some really big oxtails. I used about 2.5 tablespoons of oxtail seasoning. I eyeball things. I'm an eyeball cook when it comes to seasonings. I don't measure things. I'm sorry guys, that's just not my style. I've always been a cook that eyeballs things, and trust me, my food always come out right. It's never too salty, it's never less. It's just right. So I've gotten all of that seasoning mixed very well onto my oxtails. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and heat up the pan here, because what I do is I sear my oxtails first. Okay. All right. Okay, now I'm back, and what I would do is begin by searing these oxtails up. This is not their permanent home. We're just searing them here in the skillet, and we will begin by just placing them in the oil. Give them a nice brown on each side. And this will take approximately 15 minutes, because I'm going to sear each side for 5 minutes. I'll sear this side, the top side, and then I will go for the sides of the oxtail and sear them each for 5 minutes. And after I sear them, we're going to go to the next step. Like I said, this is not their permanent home. This is just the searing process, and then I'll come back with the next step, because this will take some time to give them their that nice brown that I'm looking for. Okay guys, see you on the next step. Hi guys, so these oxtails have been searing now for a good 20 minutes. I seared them on each side, as you can see here, on each side for a good 5 minutes each. And we're now going to just move on to the next step. And pretty much what I do is just add these oxtails to a bigger pan here. And we add the onion soup mixture. This gives a really nice flavor. And we're going to add some pureed onions that I mix up in my food processor. And we're going to add about 2 cups of water. Okay. Mix it around. This is just a bath for these oxtails. Looks like their spa here, mixed with all these nice vegetables. Alright, so now we're going to add all of these vegetables here. You could see I have bok chow, I have carrots, I have rutabaga, I have cassava, and I have ginger there. And we have mint. So we're going to begin with the cassava. And all of this is just going to cook down so nicely, guys. You just wait to the results. And then the mint leaves here, we're going to add in that dish. I'm going to add our garlic. I'm going to add those rutabagas. And we're going to add the carrots. And the bok chow. Gotta have my greens in my dish. So we're just gonna mix all of this goodness in to this nice dish. Gonna add more water. Okay, so with me adding that water, that was a good 3 cups of water. Okay, so these oxtails, like, it looks so lovely, but just wait and see how it looks once I'm done. And it's gonna taste so good. Okay, so again, with this oxtails, we have the cassava, we have rutabagas, we have mint leaves, we have bok choy, we have carrots, ginger, onion soup mix, and we're gonna let that cook down for a good hour and a half. And once it's done, I'll come back with the results, guys. Do a close-up of that. It looks so good. Okay, we'll come back with the next step. It doesn't matter. Hi guys, it's Chef Michelle here, and I'm back with the results of cooking this oxtails. This is the results of the oxtails here. As you can see, they're nice and tender, and all the nice vegetables that I put in there, the bok choy, the rutabaga, the cassava, everything is cooked down nicely. Okay, and so then we have here the pondu that I mentioned to you guys about. This is the pondu. As you guys can see, it has the texture of like spinach. And so we'll go ahead and just plate this dish. Okay, we'll start with the oxtails here. Alright, grab one of those nice oxtails, put some of that cassava on a plate, some of those carrots, rutabaga, nice and delicious. Okay. We'll do another oxtail because gotta plate that oxtail up there. Okay, maybe put a carrot, put one of those carrots up there. Alright. Hi guys, so I'm back now and I am going to finish up doing this fufu. And I just want to show you guys how to do a plantain fufu. There's many different types. There's a cassava fufu, but today I will be using the instant plantain fufu. And this is just an example of what I'm doing, guys. You know, it's good to use a wooden spoon like what I have here, and it's good to use a pot, but I will be using a skillet to do my fufu. The traditional African way is to use a pot, but again, this is just for an example. So you begin with the boiling water and you begin to pour in the mixture here, and you just have to stir vigorously. Keep stirring, stirring, stirring. It looks very clumpy in the beginning, but you just keep stirring. Okay, and then as you guys can see, it looks like, you know, cottage cheese, but you just keep adding more and more of the plantain flour here, because what we want is to make this into like a ball of dough. Like, that's what it looks like, a dough ball, like when you're making bread or something. But you just keep mixing, and as it clumps like this, you guys can see there's a different texture here. It's becoming more clumped together. And you just keep stirring, because as I said, we're trying to make this into like a ball of dough. And just use your spoon to roll it around. The great thing is I have a non-stick skillet, so this works perfectly. Now you just keep rolling this ball of plantain fufu mix into a circle. You guys see? This is exactly what you have to do. You want to make sure all of that white flour that you had at the bottom of your skillet in the beginning is all gone. Make sure it's well incorporated inside of the ball that we have here, the ball of plantain. As you guys can see here, I'll do a close-up for you after. This is how you do the African fufu. Okay? Now, I'll just do that close-up. And in order to make sure your fufu is like a good fufu, you could do a check, and you do like a pinch here, and you see you could roll it around. If it's not stretchy, if it stretches, then that means that it's not a good fufu. But this is a good fufu, and the Africans use their fingers, they use their hands, they eat it that way. So yeah, anyway, we'll just come back with the plating of this dish.